Hello everyone, now we will be doing the chapter Kabuliwala by Rabindranath Tagore. So we meet a lot of people every day in our lives, but not everybody leaves their mark the same. Some become more important to us, some become more dear and close to us, while others just pass by in our lives. This chapter is about relationships, the relationship of a father and daughter, the relationship of a husband and wife, the relationship of a stranger and a little girl. These relationships are a core part of our life. So let's first have a look at the summary of the chapter. The story, the Kabuliwala, is narrated by the father of a 5-year-old Minnie, the talkative and innocent Minnie, and Rehmat, a hawker of dry fruits from Kabul, are the central characters of the story. One morning, Minnie saw a Kabuliwala through her window and called out to him. He was a tall, untidily dressed man with a turban on his head and a bang slung over his shoulder. As soon as the Kabuliwala drew close the house, Minnie ran and vanished inside. Her father bought some dry fruits and chatted with him and came to know of him and his family at Kabul. Then he called Minnie and introduced her to Rehmat, the Kabuliwala, so that she would shed her fear of the Kabuliwala. Rehmat gave Minnie some dry fruits from his bag. Later, Minnie's father found that his daughter and Kabuliwala had struck up a happy relationship, and the two of them met practically every day. The Kabuliwala was a patient listener to Minnie's little tittle-tattle and also gave her loads of nuts and raisins. So till now we see that the protagonists of the story, the two people, Minnie, who is a 5-year-old girl, and the Kabuliwala, who is an old man, pretty much the age of her father. So they both are the two protagonists and they meet. And one day Minnie just sees him and she's fascinated by the way he looks, with a bag on his shoulder and a turban on his head. So she's very fascinated by the way he looks, and she just calls out to him, "Kabuliwala, oh Kabuliwala." And he just sees her and he comes back. And the father of Minnie, he has a little chit chat with him. And Minnie is very scared. So a little child should not be wary of all the strangers. Thinking that, the Minnie's father calls her from inside and makes sure that her fear of the Kabuliwala is shed away. After shedding off this fear, slowly what happens, they both become friends. Now this is a very unlikely friendship. Have you ever seen a 40 or 50-year-old man be friends with a 5-year-old girl? That too, listening to her very patiently, talking to her and giving her free fruits and everything, not for any profit of his. So this was a very unlikely relationship that was fostering. Moving on, the Kabuliwala entertained Minnie with stories of his motherland. Minnie's mother, Rama, was against the growing companionship between her daughter and the Kabuliwala, and feared he would kidnap Minnie one day and sell her off as a slave. All of a sudden, disaster struck the Kabuliwala. He was arrested and sentenced to several years of incarceration for stabbing one of his customers who owed him money. After his release from the jail, the Kabuliwala went to Minnie's house to meet her. However, he found that Minnie had grown up and it was her wedding day. Minnie's father was not happy to see the Kabuliwala on that day and considered it inauspicious to let him see Minnie. He persuaded the Kabuliwala to go away. Before going away, the Kabuliwala left a few grapes and raisins for Minnie. Now the movie has moved forward and we see that their relationship has grown, right? But as any mother would be wary of a stranger, so was Minnie's mother Rama. She was very scared that the Kabuliwala might kidnap her daughter or might, indulge in human trafficking or something like that. And she was very apprehensive of their relationship because of this. Now we see in the next phase what happens is that the Kabuliwala gets arrested. So we see that once a year during the month of January, the Kabuliwala used to go back to his country, Kabul, and to meet his family. And this year he needed money for that, and that's why he was asking back money from everybody who owed him money. So one of them refused, and then he tried to murder him, which was why he was arrested. And we see that he is arrested for many years, and in these years Minnie grows up. Minnie becomes a young bride, and on her wedding day the kabuliwala returns. Moving on. He then showed Minnie's father a tatty piece of paper with a charcoal print of a tiny hand. It was his daughter's. Filled with pity for the kabuliwala, Minnie's father called Minnie. When the kabuliwala saw Minnie in her bridal dress, he was surprised to find a young woman he could not recognize. Minnie was embarrassed when she thought of her long forgotten companionship and shied away. The kabuliwala found it extremely difficult to reconcile with the reality. Seeing the predicament of the kabuliwala, Minnie's father offered him enough money to return to Kabul to join up with his daughter. Even though he had to cut down some of the wedding celebrations, he was contented with his humanistic gesture to distressed father. Now we see in the final part what happens is, when the kabuliwala returns, Minnie's father does not want him to meet Minnie on that day because it's a very auspicious day, right? The day has been chosen carefully by the astrologers. And on this auspicious day, if a person who was arrested and who was in jail for so long for the charge of murder comes to their house and wants to meet the bride, you would not consider that very auspicious, right? So that was what was happening here. But what happens is that the kabuliwala just leaves some raisins there and shows him a piece of paper which was kept in his breast pocket. That was the closest thing to his heart. So he opens the paper and he shows Minnie's father the paper. And what is there? There is a little hand on it of his little daughter. And that's when Minnie's father realizes that he used to meet Minnie and talk to her just like he used to do it with his daughter. And for this, he even later gives him money because he thinks that if he unites a father with his daughter, then his pain of parting with Minnie on his wedding would reduce, and it would also bless the newly married couple. Again, one more thing happens here is that Minnie is called from inside to meet the kabuliwala, but the kabuliwala has been away for so long that he has distanced himself from reality and he has to face it again. So suddenly it dawns upon him that even with his own daughter, he would have to reconcile their friendship as well. It would not be the same. And that dawns upon kabuliwala, and he is not very happy about it, but he knows that he has to move on and he has to go back to his daughter and reconcile their friendship. So this was the summary of the story, and now we will be moving on to the themes of the story. First theme is relationships. As we talked, the unlikely relationship of a meager kabuliwala and a 5-year-old child who is the daughter of a very prominent writer. So that is a very unlikely relationship, but a fruitful one for both of them, right? Next, the relationship of Minnie and her father. We see that in the beginning they were very close. She used to sit in his office, in his study for so long hours. But by the end of the story, the writer mentions that Minnie and him, they used to scarcely talk. So things change over time and children grow up, and it is what changes with time, that is what relationships is all about. But still, another theme of the story which is linked to relationships is love. The love stays. Even after years of staying away from Minnie, when the kabuliwala comes back, he has love in his heart for Minnie. He gets the little raisins and nuts that he knows that she loves. So he considers little things that Minnie likes, and that is his love. Even Minnie's father, we see that when her wedding day comes, he is very upset that he would have to part with his daughter. Although he says that they scarcely talk now, but that does not matter, since his love for Minnie is beyond all the worldly things. So we have discussed relationships and love so far. Next, coming to parting. Now there are two partings in this chapter. First is when the kabuliwala parts from Minnie and he is arrested. Three partings. First is when the kabuliwala parts from Minnie. Second is when the kabuliwala every year parts from his own family and his own daughter. Third is when on Minnie's wedding day, Minnie is about to part from her father. So these partings show the pain of leaving somebody behind. but they also show that you have to move on in life and face the reality. Next is waiting, the theme of waiting. Again, Minnie and the Kabuliwala's daughter, both of them keep waiting for the Kabuliwala to return. They patiently wait for him, knowing that he would come, and they would talk and enjoy. So even in the waiting, there is some love hidden. Next, moving on to the character sketch of Minnie. So Minnie was a talkative girl. As we see that her little tattle used to always go on in her father's office, and he used to try that she would keep quiet so that he could write. Even while sitting with the Kabuliwala, she just used to go on, and Kabuli was a very patient listener. Maybe that's why they had such a strong bond of friendship. Next, she was very chirpy. Again, she was very talkative. She talked, and she asked like the Kabuliwala, "Kabuliwala, oh Kabuliwala, what is there in your bag?" And he used to reply, "An elephant." Well, that does not sound so funny, or does it? So, but to them it did. They used to laugh out loud on this. So she was very chirpy. Next, she was shy. So by the end of the story, we see on her wedding day when she's asked if she's going to her father-in-law's. So she becomes very shy, and she steps back a little. She understands the meaning of it now, and she also understands that it's the Kabuliwala, and she is very shy that she has forgotten that companionship of Kabuliwala over the years. So she is even a little shy by the end of the story. Next, she is hopeful and patient, because every day she waits for Kabuliwala, hoping that he would come to her, maybe in the morning, sometimes later on in the evenings. He would come to her, give her the nuts and the almonds which he used to get, and he would sit with her and talk with her. So she used to be very patient in her waiting and very hopeful that he would come. Next, she was very imaginative. Again, as we say that she used to ask Kabuliwala, seeing his bag, that what is there in his bag. And such little things that build on in the story show that she is a very imaginative person as well. Now let's see a question from the text. So we'll first even read the extract and then move on to the questions. Can't I see the girl for a moment? Perhaps he was convinced that Minnie was still the same little girl and would come out of the house running to greet him. Kabuliwala, oh Kabuliwala, as in the past. So this is the extract given. Now let's read the first question. Describe the first meeting of Minnie and Kabuliwala. Now here you would write the entire thing that Minnie had seen this Kabuliwala roaming on in the streets and was very fascinated by his turban, his sling bag and everything, and she called out to him, and he turned around and came towards the house, and she was so scared and she moved inside, while her father, he talked to him and bought some almonds and raisins, and then to shed Minnie's fear, he called her from inside, and then that was her first meeting with Kabuliwala. So you will describe this. Next, how does Minnie change over the years? Initially, you will say that she was very talkative and chirpy and used to stay in her father's office for long hours, used to love talking to him, used to share everything she felt, and she was not afraid, right? Next, over the years, what happened is, while Kabuliwala was away, she grew into a woman, she grew into a bride. It was her wedding day now, and she became a very grown-up woman, and she scarcely talked with her father. She did not roam around in his office that longer, and she made more friends with other girls, and she had a circle of her own. So you will explain that in detail. For how long had the Kabuliwala not seen Minnie? Why? So here you will give the time frame and why. You will not only tell that he was arrested in the jail, but you will also give the reason why. Because he had tried to murder somebody who owed him money. Why was the Kabuliwala denied a meeting with Minnie? How does the occasion become more luminous in the end? So there are two parts of the question. Both are related to each other. So in the first part, you will write that because it was a very auspicious occasion, Minnie's wedding, so it was thought that a man with a meager income as his, who was a Kabuliwala, a mere peddler, and also who was arrested and had just come back from the jail, would make the occasion inauspicious if he met the bride and was a part of the celebrations. But how does the occasion become luminous? Because by the end, what the kabuliwala does is, he shows Minnie's father that little paper he had with the handprint of his daughter, and then Minnie's father realizes the parting that he must have faced, and he wants him to reunite with his daughter, and with that he calls Minnie from inside. He first meets Minnie, understands, and reality dawns on him that time has moved on, even his little daughter would have been grown up by now, and then he is given money to go back to Kabul. So he is eventually reunited with his daughter, which makes the occasion more luminous in the end when he meets Minnie. Next question. What are the underlying social evils highlighted through the story? So we see that in the story two things happen which are social evils. Firstly, the little 5-year-old girl is expected to know what her father-in-law's house is. As the writer mentions that in earlier times, even little girls were told about marriage, and they were married often at an early age, because their household was a little advanced one, a little modern one, so their little Minnie did not know about it. But that is one social evil that is told through the story. Next social evil told is that the kabuliwala, just because he had no money, no means and no power, he was arrested and kept in jail for so long, and he only came out after a lot of time, after finishing a sentence that was more than what he deserved. So this was about kabuliwala.